Celebrities of the modern day, digital influencers are in many ways icons to their followers. Through social media platforms such as YouTube and Instagram, these illustrious influencers have become the go-to voices of reason for the millennial generation. But how did these influencers become the fashion authority? This is Undressing Reality. The evolution of the virtual celebrity is in many ways related to the popularity and advancement of social media. Meeting with a group of fashion leaders varying in expertise, I probed for details on what the job of a digital influencer entails and the ways in which consumers should look out for sponsored content.
I think digital influencers, if done properly and if their values are aligned with the brand values, I think can be very, very powerful. You have to have the same brand values. So there are some digital influencers that I think just, even though they're influencers, you're not buying anything that they're actually putting out there. So they need to really pay attention to their brand. Like as a PR person, I look at some of those digital influencers and I think you have really pretty pictures, but I really wouldn't buy anything that you're putting on your Instagram feed, just because I know that you're getting paid for it and it just doesn't feel like anything. Ultimately, what brands are trying to do is evoke a certain lifestyle depending on what it is. I think that their role is to sell. If you align with an influencer that shares those same brand values, I think that's when magic happens.
I think the way that it is right now is that they're being used a lot by brands, because brands really are hoping to connect with real people on their phones, and influencers have those large followings and they have engaged followings, and so brands will enlist a digital influencer to wear their line or try their lipstick and then have the brand, have the influencer tag the brand and hashtag it and all of that. To be honest, that's the main way that digital influencers are occupying the space right now, is this kind of intermediary of being faces of the brand. I think the challenge though is to not dilute your feed and dilute your own personal brand by being, hashtag sponsored all the time. In terms of digital influencers in publishing, we work with an influencer network, so we have 15 women across Canada, and they help us create content. So they're our go-tos in Vancouver and Calgary and Edmonton and Ottawa when we're like, guys, what's going on? Like we want to hear about like the newest boutiques and the newest spas. So they're acting really as kind of insider voices for us. We're treating them in that way a little bit more like editors than traditional influencers. But then they're also there for us when Compact launches and they're, Instagramming the photo and sort of telling their followers about it to like go and check it out.
I know that companies are confused about how to utilize them. A lot of it is just sending products out and hoping that people will talk about them. Some of it is paid programming, but I think you can see it when you look at an influencer's page. You can see when they are doing something that isn't quite what they would do organically. They're being paid to do it. It's kind of a common refrain that millennials don't care. If it's pretty, if it's a nice product, they don't really care if it's paid or not. But I think that they really care. I think everybody cares, whether it's authentic or not, or whether someone actually likes the thing that they're talking about or not, and it really falls flat. I think that there are so many influencers now that the playing field is going to have to get smaller. It's going to have to be weeded out, and the really, good people who really know what they're talking about and really are kind of, have some credibility, those ones will sort of take the larger chunk of the pie. I mean, they are right now, but I think it will probably expand. And I think they'll probably have closer relationships with the brands that they work with. If someone has a real affinity with a certain brand, they will work more closely with them on a longer term basis, and it will feel more natural because they identify with the brand anyway. So I feel like that kind of thing will probably happen more and more, where influencers are kind of muses to brands, and that may be more successful, depending on who the brand is and who the influencer is, but I think that we'll see more of that.
I think the overall thing is people want more of an actual connection. I think the thing that we might see is the industry, like it drop off a little bit at the bottom, the people who have sort of adopted some of the traditional maybe digital influencer poses and who have mastered a certain way of not looking at the camera like this, or there's a bit of a, I wouldn't say a formula because that's perhaps unfair, but there is maybe a traditional approach to being a digital influencer, the same way there was a a traditional approach to how you create a lineup for a fashion magazine. There's always going to be a place for that kind of level of aspiration and glamour, but otherwise I think people will be looking more for inspiring real women that they can follow and get excited by.
I just think the digital influencer role will continue to evolve. I don't know to what extent necessarily, but it will just continue to grow. I do think that what will become probably more and more prevalent is that we are all influencers. So the moment you have a social media account is the moment you actually are an influencer, because micro-influencers are becoming such a trend. So you need to think about, if you have 500 followers, you really are an influencer. I think we are going to tap into almost every single person that's online, depending on what their purchase habits are and depending on what their interests are. Authenticity, even though it was a word that felt so old like 2 years ago, it's so important. So when I look at social influencers, that's why micro-influencers to me are interesting, because my friend that has 500 followers, she's posting because she genuinely likes that. And that's important to me, because then I feel more connected to her.
I love the digital influencer, and I'm guilty of following them. I have my people that I love, and I love watching their life unfold. I love feeling like I can be a part of it. But I also miss reading about people who have worked for 20 years in the industry and the stories they have, and I miss kind of feeling like there was something to strive for. Now it's not really like that. I think the digital influencer is definitely important right now, but I don't know if they're going to be as important in 10 years, or maybe they're going to blow up even more than they are now, and I just can't imagine it. I just don't know.
Digital influencers have the ability to connect with followers on a much deeper level than ever before. But with this capability to relate to supporters, many times there's a sense of dishonesty or trickery associated with it. By looking out for identifiers such as #ad or sponsored, we can become a much stronger and more educated group of consumers. Relating to social media, episode 6 of Undressing Reality takes a deeper look at the millennial generation and the ways in which this demographic can change the world. While you're at it, make sure to check out the rest of the Undressing Reality series. Thanks for watching!